Welcome everyone to today's deep dive into the world of rare coins, where tiny pieces of copper that most people overlook every single day can turn out to be hidden treasures worth millions. And in this journey, we are going to unravel the fascinating story of the 1978 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts around the globe, with stories of sales going as high as $3 million. And you may be wondering how a simple penny that was minted in such high numbers, with billions entering circulation, could possibly climb to such astronomical value. But the secret lies not in its face value, nor in the common examples that everyone has jingling around in their drawers, but in the rare and extraordinary errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make certain specimens truly unique, turning them into collectibles of unimaginable worth. So let's set the stage properly. Because 1978 was a year when the United States Mint, operating at multiple facilities like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, produced a massive volume of Lincoln cents, most of them struck in copper alloy as was the standard before the zinc transition of 1982, and in that process, when billions of coins are produced, even the slightest mistake or anomaly can slip through, and when that happens, a tiny handful of coins suddenly become legendary, capturing the fascination of numismatists across the world. And the 1978 cent is no exception, because hidden among the countless ordinary examples are those rare errors that not only attract attention but command extraordinary sums, with documented instances of these coins changing hands for figures far beyond imagination, some reportedly valued at $3 million because of their striking mistakes. So what kind of errors could possibly justify such a valuation? Let us walk through the possibilities and paint a full picture. Because in coin minting errors, there are categories that consistently drive value skyward, such as double dies, where the hubbing process strikes the design more than once, creating doubling on the lettering, the date, or even on Lincoln's portrait itself. And if you look closely at a true double die from 1978, you might see dramatic splits in the numbers, extra thickness in the letters Liberty, or I in God We Trust, or bold doubling on the date 1978. And when such a variety is discovered, collectors instantly go wild, because these are extremely rare and almost impossible to replicate, making each one a true anomaly in the minting process. And then there are off-center strikes, where the coin planchet, instead of being centered perfectly in the press, shifts slightly so the design lands partially outside of the coin, creating off-center impressions that can range from mild to extreme. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, especially when the date remains visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. So if you happen to stumble upon a 1978 penny that has half the design missing but the date still clearly visible, you might actually be holding a small fortune in your hand. Another thrilling category involves broad strikes, where the collar that normally shapes the coin fails, allowing the metal to spread outward in an unusual way, giving the coin an odd, stretched, or distorted look that instantly sets it apart from the millions of normal pieces. And then let's not forget clipped planchets, where the blank coin before striking was improperly cut, leaving crescent shaped clips along the edges. And while minor clips can add small premiums, dramatic or multiple clips can push values significantly higher, especially if combined with other anomalies. And what about transitional errors? Because while 1978 was firmly a copper coin year, we know that in coin minting, blanks can sometimes be left behind from previous years or accidentally struck on wrong planchets meant for other denominations. So imagine a 1978 penny mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, or even on a foreign coin blank, instantly turning an ordinary penny into an object of intrigue worth an astronomical figure. And the category that excites collectors the most, especially when we talk about million-dollar coins, are double denomination errors, where a coin is struck twice, first as one denomination and then mistakenly struck again as another. So imagine a 1978 penny struck over a dime, or a quarter, creating a bizarre combination of designs from two different denominations colliding on one coin. And when such a coin escapes into circulation, its rarity is beyond belief, its uniqueness unquestioned, and collectors line up with blank checks ready to pay whatever it takes to own it, because rarity in numismatics is about uniqueness. And uniqueness is exactly what the 1978 cent in question embodies. Now, some may wonder how it is even possible for a single penny to reach values as high as $3 million, and the answer lies not just in the type of error, but also in the Coin's condition, its rarity, the demand among collectors, and the story behind it, because condition plays a pivotal role in determining value, and when an era coin is found in mint state with sharp luster and no circulation wear, its desirability increases tenfold. Combine that with a dramatic and undeniable minting mistake, and suddenly you have a specimen that could headline auctions, attract worldwide attention, and ultimately command record-breaking prices. So when we talk about the legendary 1978 penny worth $3 million, we are looking at a coin that is not simply a mistake, but a masterpiece of minting error, a coin that escaped detection, survived circulation or storage in pristine condition, and ended up in the hands of collectors who understood its significance. And that story alone fuels demand because beyond the physical object, collectors are buying into history, into rarity, into the unlikelihood that something so small could slip through the cracks of one of the world's most tightly controlled minting systems. And to understand this further, think about the psychology of collecting, because when there are billions of identical coins, owning the one that is different, the one that stands apart, carries immense prestige, and that prestige translates directly into value. So every misaligned die, every doubled inscription, every clipped edge adds layers of narrative to the coin, making it less about 1 cent and more about owning a once-in-a-lifetime artifact. And here's where things get fascinating, because in the numismatic community, stories of era coins fuel endless discussions, speculation, and competition, with collectors constantly scanning their change, dealers poring over bags of coins, and enthusiasts searching estate sales, flea markets, and old collections for that one gem, that one era that could set them for life. And with the 1978 penny, it's that mythos, that possibility, that drives the dream, because even though the average 1,978 penny in circulation might be worth just a cent, the tiny chance of finding one of these eras worth millions creates a sense of adventure. And the truth is, discoveries do happen, era coins emerge unexpectedly, and auction houses regularly feature new finds that shock the market. So let's imagine for a moment that you stumble upon a jar of old pennies tucked away in a garage. And among them is a strange-looking 1978 cent with doubled lettering or an odd off-center strike, and you take it to an expert, who confirms its authenticity and rarity, and suddenly you are no longer holding just a penny, you are holding a ticket to financial transformation, because that coin could fetch hundreds of thousands, even millions depending on the severity of its error and its condition. And this is why the legend of the 1978 penny continues to inspire curiosity. Because unlike rare coins minted intentionally with low mintages, era coins are true accidents, once in a lifetime. Flukes that can never be recreated, and this makes them authentic treasures in every sense of the word. So the next time you dismiss a penny as worthless, remember that among the billions, there could be one that breaks all the rules, one that carries within it the story of minting mishaps and the potential to change lives. And if history has shown us anything, it is that collectors will pay whatever it takes to secure such treasures. Which is why the 1978 1-cent coin has reached valuations that seem unimaginable, and while not every collector will ever hold such a specimen, the mere knowledge that it exists fuels the passion of the hobby, reminding us all that sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest value. And the beauty of this is that the possibility remains alive, so long as people continue to check their change, continue to search coin rolls, and continue to study the minute details of every coin that passes through their hands, because the next $3 million penny might still be out there, waiting for someone just like you to discover it. And that is what makes the story of the 1978 1-cent both thrilling and timeless, a story that will continue to echo in the world of numismatics for decades to come, inspiring new generations of collectors to look closer, dig deeper, and never underestimate the power of a simple penny. Next, 1975 1-cent USA coin, another extraordinary journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable values that transform an everyday pocket change into something so priceless it shocks even the most experienced collectors. And today we dive deep into the mysterious, fascinating, and almost unbelievable story of the 1975 United States 1-cent coin. A small copper piece that in certain rare forms, because of unique and striking minting errors and mistakes, has reportedly reached values as high as $4 million, and when we hear such numbers for something as common as a penny, it immediately raises curiosity, disbelief, and excitement all at once, because how can a simple 1-cent coin that was produced in the billions, minted with the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, climb into the realm of millions? And yet when we dig deeper into the errors, the minting anomalies, and the unique circumstances that define the 1975 penny, the mystery begins to make sense, and the excitement for coin collectors only grows stronger. So let's start at the beginning, because the year 1975 in American coinage history is intriguing, not only because of the massive numbers of coins struck to meet circulation demands, but also because the United States Mint was operating in a period of immense production pressure, using large-scale machinery, dies that were sometimes overworked, and processes that left small openings for mistakes to slip through, and these mistakes, while unnoticed by the general public, became golden opportunities for collectors, because when billions of coins are struck, the likelihood of a few errors appearing is inevitable, and those few become the legends that drive numismatic markets to incredible highs, and the 1975 penny is one of those legends, with certain examples becoming so rare, so distinctive, and so coveted that they have crossed the unimaginable barrier of $4 million in collector valuation. So what exactly are the errors and mistakes that make a 1975 1-cent coin worth so much? Let's carefully examine the possibilities and trace the different categories of minting errors that fuel such astronomical value, starting with doubled dies, one of the most famous and collectible error types across all denominations. Because when the hub strikes the die more than once and slightly misaligns, the result is doubling of the design elements, and on a 1975 penny this could mean thick, clear doubling in the date, in the word liberty, in the motto I in God we trust, or even in details of Lincoln's portrait, and dramatic doubled dies are not only rare but visually stunning, making them instantly desirable, and a coin like this in pristine mint state condition could easily spark bidding wars, pushing values higher and higher. But doubled dies are just the beginning, because another powerful error category is off-center strikes, which occur when the blank planchet is not seated properly in the press, causing the design to land partially outside the intended area, and these can range from slight misalignments of 5% to dramatic off-center strikes of 50% or more. And when such an error appears on a 1975 penny with the date still visible, collectors are immediately drawn to it, because the rarity combined with the identifiable year creates a unique masterpiece of minting mishap, and extreme off-centers are always worth more, particularly when the coin is in uncirculated condition, and then there are broad strikes, where the collar that normally contains the metal during striking fails to do its job, allowing the coin to expand outward abnormally, resulting in a distorted and stretched look that separates the coin visually from standard issues, and a 1975 penny with such a striking anomaly instantly becomes a talking point, commanding premium values. But perhaps even more captivating are transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes, which are among the most valuable categories of mistakes in coinage, and the 1975 penny provides fertile ground for such errors, because while the coins of this year were officially struck on copper alloy planchets, mistakes can happen where blanks from other denominations or even foreign coins accidentally enter the presses, and when a penny design is struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even a leftover planchet intended for another year, the result is a spectacular rarity. Because the coin is not only unique but technically an impossible object, and such impossibilities excite collectors more than anything else, which is why wrong planchet 1975 pennies can reach astronomically high prices, especially in top grades. And then there are double denomination errors, which are practically the holy grail of minting mistakes, where a coin is struck twice. First as one denomination and then mistakenly struck again as another, and if such a thing happened with a 1975 penny, such as being struck over a dime or a quarter, the bizarre clash of two different designs on one coin would create an object so rare, so unique, and so iconic that collectors would pay millions for the privilege of owning it. And then we have to consider die breaks, cuds, and cracks, where overused dies begin to fail and leave raised lumps, missing sections, or dramatic cracks on the coin. And while minor examples might not be worth much, Major die breaks or full cuts on a 1975 penny can increase value exponentially, especially when combined with other anomalies. And now let's take a closer look at why the 1975 penny specifically holds such allure. Because while billions were minted, the fact that number 1975 proof pennies exist within S mint mark. Since the mint chose to omit the 1975 proof coinage in favor of preparing the 1976 bicentennial issues, adds another layer of intrigue to this year, making any unusual 1975 coin feel like an anomaly in itself, and that's why collectors hunt with so much passion, because the story surrounding 1975 already has built-in mystique, and when mystique combines with genuine rarity in the form of error coins, values soar to unthinkable heights. Now let's talk about condition and grading, because value is not just about the type of error but also about how well the coin has been preserved, and in numismatics, coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, with mint state coins in grades like MS65, MS66, or higher being exponentially more valuable than circulated examples. And when you combine a dramatic 1975 error, like a double die or off-center strike, with a high mint state grade certified by a top grading company like PCGS or NGC, you suddenly have a specimen that commands global attention. And when global attention meets scarcity, prices skyrocket. And that's exactly how a humble 1975 penny could climb to $4 million. Because collectors not only value the coin itself but also the story, the prestige, and the honor of owning something virtually no one else in the world possesses. And if we step into the psychology of collectors, it becomes clear that rarity is not just about numbers but about uniqueness. Because in a sea of billions of identical coins, owning the one or two that are dramatically different, dramatically flawed in a way that makes them more beautiful, more mysterious, is worth any price. And this is why auction houses have seen dramatic bidding wars, where wealthy collectors push values into the millions for coins like the 1975 penny. Because owning such a piece is more than an investment, it is a statement, a piece of history, and a conversation piece unlike anything else. And let's not forget that error coins are accidents, not planned rarities like low-mintage commemoratives, and that is precisely what makes them irresistible. Because they represent moments when the perfect machinery of the mint failed, when chance created beauty, and when accidents became legends. And the rarity of such moments ensures that once discovered, these coins never lose their appeal. Instead, they grow more famous with each passing year. And so the legend of the 1975 penny worth $4 million is not just about copper and metal, but about the fusion of history, rarity, chance, and human fascination. And this is what drives collectors to continue searching, coin roll hunting, examining jars of old change, and scouring estate sales, because somewhere out there may still lie undiscovered examples of these errors, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize their value. And the magic of this is that anyone can be the discoverer, because unlike rare paintings or ancient artifacts, coins pass through everyday hands, they circulate, they hide in basements, they sit in collections forgotten for decades, and then suddenly they resurface, igniting the imagination of the world. And this possibility, this chance that a simple penny in your pocket could be worth $4 million, is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies and investments in the world. And so the story of the 1975 1-cent coin, in its rare and extraordinary error forms, will continue to echo across generations, inspiring hope, fueling curiosity, and proving once again that in the world of numismatics, the smallest things can hold the greatest value. And this $4 million penny stands as a shining example of how mistakes, far from diminishing worth, can sometimes create treasures beyond imagination. Next, 1981 1-cent USA fascinating journey into the world of rare and valuable coins where the smallest pieces of change, coins that most people overlook or toss into jars without a second thought, can actually turn out to be treasures worth life-changing sums of money. And today we are going to dive into the extraordinary story of the 1981 United States 1-cent coin, the iconic Lincoln cent, which in its rarest and most extraordinary error forms has reached values as high as $2 million. And when people first hear this, they often laugh in disbelief, asking how could a coin that was minted in such large quantities, billions upon billions of them flooding into circulation, possibly be worth so much. But as every serious collector knows, the secret lies not in the ordinary examples that most of us see every day, but in the rare, dramatic, and extraordinary minting errors that slip through the cracks of the mint's production process. And when those errors are combined with condition, rarity, and collector demand, the humble 1981 penny can transform into a numismatic masterpiece that commands prices in the millions. So let's start by setting the historical stage, because the year 1981 is incredibly important in the timeline of U.S. coinage, sitting right before a major transition that would change the very composition of the Lincoln cent. As 1982 was the year the mint shifted from the long-used 95% copper composition to the copper-plated zinc planchets that continue today, and this means that 1981 was one of the last full years of the traditional heavy copper cents, making them significant already. But beyond composition, the sheer volume of coins produced in 1981, both from Philadelphia and Denver, meant that the pressure on the minting machinery was intense, and when that kind of pressure exists, the likelihood of errors increases dramatically. And when those errors occur, they create tiny slivers of uniqueness among billions of identical coins. And that uniqueness is the very definition of value in the world of numismatics. So let's now walk through the types of errors and mistakes that can transform a 1981 penny into a $2 million marvel, because understanding them gives us insight into why collectors will pay anything to own such coins. And the first and most famous error type to discuss is the double die, which happens when the coin's design hub imprints more than once on the die in a slightly different position, creating noticeable doubling on the finished coins. And in the case of a 1981 penny, this could appear as doubled numbers in the date, thick or shadow-like letters in Liberty, strong doubling in I in God We Trust, or even noticeable extra lines on Lincoln's portrait itself. And dramatic doubled dies are always at the top of collector wish lists, because they are so visually striking and undeniably rare. And when a dramatic doubled die from 1981 is discovered in pristine mint state condition, collectors line up to bid, and those bids can skyrocket into the millions. Then we have off-center strikes, another classic error that excites collectors, where the coin planchet was not perfectly centered in the striking press, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing, sometimes as little as 5% but sometimes as extreme as 70% off-center, and the more dramatic the off-center strike, especially when the date remains fully visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. So a 1981 penny struck with 50% of the design missing but with a crisp visible date could easily be one of the most desirable error coins of the year. And next we come to broad strikes, which occur when the restraining collar that normally shapes the coin during striking fails to hold it, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond its normal dimensions, leaving a stretched, irregular coin that immediately stands out from the ordinary. And when you combine a broad strike with the full 1981 date clearly visible, you get a dramatic rarity. Now let's explore another realm of minting mistakes that collectors adore: wrong planchet errors, which happen when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. And imagine a 1981 penny struck on a dime planchet, or even more exciting, on a foreign coin planchet, because the U.S. Mint often struck foreign coinage in those years. And if a blank from a foreign contract slipped into the presses, the result is a bizarre anomaly, a coin that should not exist, and these are so rare that they instantly become the stuff of legend, commanding millions when offered at auction. And even rarer still are double denomination errors, where a coin is first struck as one denomination and then mistakenly struck again with a different denomination's design, and the resulting coin shows two completely different designs overlapping on the same piece of metal. And for a 1981 penny struck over, let's say, a Roosevelt dime or Jefferson nickel, the rarity is astronomical. And the value, fueled by uniqueness, easily justifies the $2 million tag. Then we must talk about die breaks, cuds, and cracks, where overworked dies begin to fail and leave dramatic raised areas, chunks of missing design, or spider-like cracks across the coin. And while minor die cracks are common, a full cut error that takes up a large portion of the 1981 penny could be worth thousands on its own. And if preserved in uncirculated condition, perhaps hundreds of thousands. And when combined with other errors, even millions. But what really pushes the 1981 penny into legendary status is the combination of timing, rarity, and historical significance, because as the last of the full copper era, any unusual coins from 1981 carry extra weight in the market, and when dramatic errors from this year surface, they are seen not only as minting accidents but as historical artifacts, bridging the copper era and the coming zinc era, and this story makes them even more desirable. So, let's also remember the role of condition, because numismatists prize coins not just for rarity but for preservation, and coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70. And when an era coin is found in a grade like MS65 or MS67, with full original luster and virtually no marks, its desirability soars exponentially. And that's where the millions come into play, because wealthy collectors at major auction houses will pay astronomical figures for a coin that combines rarity, error, and condition into a single specimen. And this is why we hear of 1981 pennies in special error forms selling for up to $2 million, because they are not just coins, they are masterpieces of numismatic history. Now let's dive deeper into the psychology of why collectors chase these coins so aggressively. Because it's not only about the physical rarity but also the prestige of owning something that no one else has, and in the numismatic world, prestige is priceless. Because when billions of people have handled ordinary pennies, to be one of the few who owns a coin that stands apart, that has a visible and dramatic error that tells a story of chance and imperfection, gives the owner a sense of uniqueness, of exclusivity. And that feeling drives prices skyward, and collectors are not only chasing history but also chasing legacy. Because owning a coin like the 1981 penny era worth millions is like owning a painting by a great master. It is not just an object, it is a cultural artifact, a treasure, and an investment all rolled into one. And this is why auction houses see bidding wars where collectors battle passionately over who gets to take home these treasures, pushing prices higher than anyone would expect. And to put this into perspective, consider how most people treat pennies as worthless, not even bothering to pick them up off the ground. And yet here we are talking about a 1981 penny worth $2 million, a contradiction that fascinates the public and fuels viral stories across news outlets, social media, and collector forums, making these coins even more famous. And fame itself adds to value, because when a coin is written about, talked about, and shared across the community, more collectors want it, more attention is drawn to it, and demand naturally grows, driving prices even higher. So the legend of the 1981 penny continues to expand, captivating both serious numismatists and casual hobbyists alike, inspiring countless people to dig through their old change jars, examine their penny rolls, and take a second look at what they once ignored, because the possibility of finding such a coin, however slim, is thrilling. And the truth is, discoveries are still happening, as coins resurface from forgotten collections, or newly discovered errors are brought to grading services and authenticated. And every time this happens, the legend of the 1981 penny grows stronger, proving once again that in numismatics, mistakes can be worth more than perfection. And so when we think about the 1981 penny valued at $2 million, we should see not just a coin but a story of minting machinery that slipped, of errors that became treasures, of chance that created rarity, and of collectors whose passion transforms small pieces of metal into artifacts of unimaginable worth. And this story will continue to inspire, to fascinate, and to fuel the hunt, reminding us that even in the most ordinary objects, extraordinary treasures may be hiding, waiting to be discovered. And that is why the 1981 1-cent coin will forever hold a place of mystery, excitement, and wonder in the history of American coinage.